last March.
And watching your face bubble and watch you turn colors, but you kept eating them.
But it was delicious. It was good. It's good.
And
I am a glutton for punishment. And by that, I mean, I just love eating really spicy food.
And the fact that you ate Rocky Mountain oysters was quite impressive.
Not as bad as I expected it to be. Honestly, I didn't think it'd be that bad.
If I gave you another plate of those, you'd knock them down?
If I had the remoulade sauce with it, you know.
If we were at a restaurant.
Shout out Will King for bringing that. I think that helped it go down a little easier.
Wow, they got Rocky Mountain oysters on the menu. I got to get me some. Would that ever happen?
No. That's a better way of putting it. Because it's not like I loved it. It was just, it wasn't as disgusting as I thought it was going to be. And maybe I just have an unidentifiable palate. But it wasn't, I was expecting it to just be gross.
I think your palate's numb.
It might be. And it might have been from those wings. It might have been from the wings and all the spicy food I've eaten that I can't taste the nastiness in certain foods.
Hey, since you're hanging here, and Tyler will be back in a little bit, but as I was going to, obviously, baseball, we'll get to that with a victory over Charleston Southern, but what I find interesting, yes, I have a mint. Why I pop a mint in my mouth before I do a show, I've done that twice in the last 2 weeks. I don't know what I'm doing. I've lost my mind.
It's just subliminal at this point. I think it's just muscle memory.
I love mints. I'm on a mint kick. I love these things.
I might have Lifesavers, right?
No, I'm going with the. It's like Lifesaver. Yeah, I don't know if it's actually Lifesaver brand, but it's like a Lifesaver. Then I have the ones, a little like red and white ones.
Ooh.
That like your aunt would have in a dish. Yeah, I'm been like all over those.
The older folks that hand out to kids at church services.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they didn't get stuck in your like dentures, I guess, or whatever. Yeah, I'm something on mint kick, and I popped one 5 minutes before I go. I just popped a mint. What the hell am I doing? But anyway, as I'm finishing up my mint, Cam Scott coming back. I'm surprised. I mean, nothing in this world is supposed to surprise me. I'm not stunned or shocked because nothing stuns or shocks me. Right. But I am surprised Cam Scott's coming back. How about you?
I am, yeah. I mean, the word I got, obviously, it was during the season. The word I got was he's probably going to enter the portal. And because there were some things just that they clearly weren't working here. You don't have to be inside the program or you don't have to be in our position to identify that the 5-star, or I guess still depending on the website you're at, but he was a top 60 consensus high school basketball player in the country. He was only playing 10 minutes a game. There were a healthy amount of DNPs on that game log. And so clearly something wasn't working.
For a team that struggled on offense the entire year, by the way.
For a team that was anemic offensively for a good chunk of the year. Basically the offense at some times of the year was just, I called it Colin Save Us. That's what it felt like for a lot of the year. But it felt like, going to a place where he can be featured in the way that his skill set is, which is being a slasher, getting to the basket, running the open floor, playing in the fast break, utilizing his athleticism, which he has in bunches. He is an incredibly gifted athlete. Maybe seeing him play in a place that prioritizes that type of offense probably was something that I thought was going to suit him a little better. But to see him come back, it tells me a couple things maybe, that maybe there might not have been the offers out that he wanted, or there might have been some renegotiating about how he's going to be used. Because I don't think he came back with the idea that we're going to do the same thing we did last year.
You can't, right?
You can't.
And yeah. My thing is, there's two buckets of this to me. A, the offers weren't there that he was hoping for when he hit the portal. And I'm not just talking about money. Money, yeah, whatever. I'm also talking about maybe he thought he'd go to a certain level program and maybe those offers weren't there. Or, like you said, a place that would really fit his skill set to a T and maybe that wasn't there. And then the money thing, yeah, you might have been disappointed, even though, to be honest, if you are a logical thinking group, you know what he got coming in he wasn't getting again, right? You just weren't.
Right.
I mean, you can even say, look, you can be a coach and go, oh, I'll get that guy where he needs to be because my system fits him, or I'll coach him up. Because all coaches do that. A lot of times they'll say, no, I'll fix this because my coaching is better or my system's better or whatever. But for the most part, he might not have got the offers financially he thought he was going to get after his freshman year here. So it could be he didn't get what he wanted, or maybe Lamont, because maybe Lamont's still looking at things he needs to get done on the roster. Maybe he wasn't getting them done the way he wanted to. Maybe he wasn't getting guys that he had targeted. Maybe, whatever the case. So maybe it was a South Carolina maybe needed to bring him back more than they thought they would have needed him. Because in that meeting with Lamont and Cam, and it's going to be, obviously, Cam's disappointed in how he didn't play. Lamont's disappointed in how he didn't play. Everybody's disappointed, right? Nobody's happy. So, and then if you would have told Cam, I do envision you in a bigger role next year, I envision you as a starter, I envision you with more minutes or whatever, he might have stayed. So maybe that meeting was, okay, this is where you're at right now. We'll see where you go next year because right now this is where you're at. And then Cam went, well, I know where I want to be at, and that's someplace going to play me more.
Right.
But then as the offseason goes, things, life is fluid, Elijah, right? So maybe there was some fluidity on one side or the other, or maybe both, where they both realized maybe they do need each other. And maybe, like you said, Lamont said, hey, we're going to maybe find a way to use you to your skill set, not try to force you into my system. Maybe I can open up my system more to incorporate your skills.
Well, think about it. What's the one thing this team hasn't really addressed from a positional standpoint in the transfer portal?
Well, they don't have a point guard, that's for sure.
They don't have a traditional point guard.
Or a facilitator, really.
Or somebody who specializes in setting up others for buckets. You have some guys that, for their position, were ranked relatively high, like Mike Shariamps, for his position as being a 6'7" small forward, rated pretty high in assist rate. But that's not going to be somebody you're going to count on to have a higher percentage of assists or maybe running your offense. That may not be his best skill set or the reason why you bring somebody in.
Third one is you really don't have a bucket getter. And to your point of Cam Scott's athleticism, the things he can do on the open floor, do you really have a guy like that on this team?
You don't.
Off the top of your head? I mean, Michi's athletic, but is he a guy that thrives? If you make it a 94-foot game, does Michi thrive?
Michi almost plays as well if he's operating with the spatial, I guess not awareness, but maybe like the space of like a phone booth, right? Like if you play him in a phone booth, he can score, right? It's not one of the things he has to be out in the open floor. He has to have a ton of space.
It's usage with Michi.
It's usage.
He needs usage, and some nights it's good, and some nights it's not. So I feel like Cam Scott, for right now, his skill, and again, this is up to Lamont also to recognize it and incorporate it, which didn't happen last year. Incorporate more of the idea. Here's what Cam Scott does really well. Let's find a way for me to tweak if you do bring him back. If you bring him back and you run this like you did last year, it's useless for both the player and the coach and the team.
And the offense is going to change. The quote unquote system is going to have to change because with the personnel that you have in right now, you can't just have your system, right? Like you have to make an amendment to that because obviously you didn't change it enough during the season. You had one of the worst offenses in the SEC during conference play. It was abysmal for a lot of it. You have to be able to adjust what you are and what you do to what your players do. And I don't know, without a Talon Cooper-esque starting point guard, you're not going to be able to run what you did the last couple of years. You're going to have to be able to throw some new stuff in. You're going to have to be able to run your offense through different means because if you do the exact same thing with a much different roster, especially one that maybe doesn't have the players that fill the roles of what made the 23-24 team so successful, then you're not going to get good results. The 23-24 team, overachieved by preseason expectation because you had guys play their role perfectly. Talon Cooper played his role perfectly. Colin, when he got healthy and was able to play, played his role perfectly. Was also a secondary facilitator of your offense. BJ Mack, for what his role was, played it perfectly. Michi played a role of being a scorer in volume when you needed him to be. There were so many guys that fit in a perfect role, and those were pretty well identified early on in the season. You can't expect a whole new group of guys to do that in a very exact same system and at work every year. Sometimes you're going to have to be able to adjust what you do offensively to what your personnel is.
Well, I think in this new world of college basketball, you do one of two things. Either you find guys who fit your system, or you need to almost redo your system in certain ways to fit your guys. It's got to be one of the two. You can't force guys to play a system they can't play. I thought that's what happened last year.
Yep.
I thought there was a lot of rigidness. But again, Lamont, not to take up for him, but he had run a certain way the year before and everything worked. So he's like, I'm going to plug these dudes into my system, and my system will make them be what I need them to be. And it didn't work. So what do you learn? Do you learn, okay, I've got to be more flexible with my system because the world has changed in college basketball, and I'm bringing all these guys in with different skill sets. Now I've got to look at everything these guys bring to the table, and now I have to still my fundamental system, but now I've got to rework it to fit all these guys. Because that feels like what you got to do with these. Because you look at a couple years ago, who's fitting? There's no Talon Cooper.
Nope. Who's Jamari and Talon are two different point guards.
Absolutely.
They're two different prototypes of player.
Right. I mean, night and day. All right. Who's BJ Mack on this team right now? Who's the stretch four on this team right now that you feel confident can go out to the three-point line and get you, not to say they're Steph Curry, but just can go to the three-point line with the threat of making a three to force the defense to have to adjust to that guy out on the three-point line.
Defense stretchers.
Who's the guy?
Right. I mean, really, you're kind of looking at Kobe Knox maybe as maybe that guy.
He's an average three-point shooter if you look at his numbers.
So, like, he's definitely a threat to do it, but is he going to play a four? Here's the thing that they have right now.
He's more of a three at the best, right? Isn't he a 2-3 kind of guy?
Yeah.
He's 6'4", right?
6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
So it's actually, he'd be more, I mean, Shariamps, maybe.
If he can make a three consistently, because that's been the issue. He's, a 30% three-point shooter in his career. He can make them, he's just not consistent.
He's got to be a little more consistent. Some of that might be mechanics. I think his shot it's not ugly. Like, there's some guys you watch shoot, and you're like, I know why that ball doesn't go in, right? I mean, you watch Michael Kidd-Gilchrist shoot a basketball, and it's
painful.
It's no Sherlock Holmes-esque mystery as to why the ball's not going in. It becomes blatantly obvious after just watching him shoot a jump shot. But with someone like Shariamps, you can maybe see why it goes in every now and then. Like, the form's not terrible. It's just you got to get some consistency out of it and
maybe
shoot the same way every time.
If you want to throw some against the wall, maybe you're putting a guy in a role where you're making that more part of his game to where he has more confidence because you have confidence in him to put him in that role. Maybe then the neck up part of the game, he starts feeling more confident with that shot. And maybe if he's taking more of those, and like you say, maybe tweak some mechanics, all of a sudden he might be able to be that guy. But, again, there's still some things on this roster. And if Studi comes back, again, that's a three-point shooter. But would you have two Scullies left after that?
Yep.
So you still got to get a point guard and a bucket getter. And
I think with Cam coming back, actually, I think that leaves you.
Is that one if Studi comes back?
One. Well, because if Studi comes back, that's one. Because right now there's still two, like with the unofficial word about Miles Studi, and then of course Colin. Let's face it,
Colin's not coming.
Colin's not coming back. He's a lottery pick.
Yes.
He's gone. So that essentially leaves you with one, I believe, left to fill the roster with.
Dude, I didn't plan on doing this. I planned on just talking about your eating. But what the hell? We always like fun talking about
basketball every now and then.
We talk about hoops every now and then, you and I. This is the conversation we have in my office, by the way.
Essentially, yeah. Every morning, essentially, that's what the meeting becomes.
Two hoop dorks just talking about basketball. Appreciate you, my man. Hang out with Jay at 3. All right, it's Elijah Campbell talking some hoops with us. Tyler's coming back, hopefully with subs. I think Dave, you awake? You okay now? You awake now? Because I can hear Dave snoring in the background. Look at his face.
As a face of disapproval.
Halftime show. Baseball. Nice win last night over Charleston Southern. What does it mean, if anything? We'll talk about that next on the halftime show on the game. South Carolina last night. That was a grinder, but it's a win. Taking out Charleston Southern. And again, to be fair, you're missing your two best offensive players in, Petrie and Hall. So, and your offense has struggled this year at times, or a lot of times. So you're sitting around thinking, okay, you're going to have some other guys step up to help you score runs, or you're going to have to lean on your pitching to score runs, or not to prevent the other team from scoring runs, I should say, because you might have trouble getting dudes across the plate. So last night, what you got was a well-pitched game. Very well-pitched game from Jarvis Evans. And this feels like this is Evans' sweet spot, throwing the midweek. Evans, 5 2/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, walked 3, struck out 1, but got through it unscathed. And then handed the ball off the bullpen. Ashton Crowther gave up a couple of runs late. Brandon Sweeney gave up a run in the 9th as well, so it got tight. But the bullpen made it. They survived. And South Carolina gets a win. But Jarvis Evans was the difference. Just an excellent start. And Evans' wheelhouse all year has been the midweek. Pretty much all of his well-pitched games have been in the midweek. And to be fair, sometimes he's been asked to pitch on the weekend with very little notice or things of that nature. Evans, it feels like the midweek just has worked for him all year. His stuff plays better against the midweek schools. So Jarvis Evans, another fine start last night, 5 2/3 scoreless. Kind of got things going. Paul Mainieri after the game. Let's get to cut 1, Dave, from Mainieri, talking about doing just enough to pull off a win over Charleston Southern. Again, cut 1.
Well, I know I sound like a broken record, but, after a tough way to finish the weekend series, a chance to win the series on Sunday, and we didn't do it, but the guys came back and, we did just enough to win today. I think our pitching was really good. Obviously, Jarvis gave us a quality start. Caleb came in and got a big out for us to end the inning. And then, even though they got to Crowther in the 2nd inning, I thought he did a good job, up until, I had to take him out. And then I was just so proud of Ryder Guarino to come in and get 2 big outs for us. And he hadn't pitched in a while, but he really attacked the hitters and did a good job. And at the end of the day, Sweeney gave up a run, but you get the last out before they tie or take the lead. That's what, closers are supposed to do. So we'll take the win and move on to the Gators.
Oh, you take the win. Absolutely. I couldn't hear it for a second, Dave. It was weird. Very weird. I blame Elijah. Why not?
Or Tyler. He's not here yet.
And Tyler's not here yet, so I blame Elijah and Tyler.
Ed Bird.
I agree. Ed Bird. He's not here either. He left.
Yeah.
But then again, Tyler's bringing back subs. We can't blame Tyler.
Oh, yeah. No.
Tyler's fault. Absolutely not Tyler's fault. So, again, Paul Mainieri, coach nailed it. It's just, look, Evans was really good. Caleb Jones bridges to Crowther. Crowther, had a rough patch, gave up a couple of runs. Guarino got a couple of outs. And then Sweeney, it wasn't easy. It was a little bumpy, but Sweeney survived and got the save by surviving the 9th inning, and you get a hard-fought win. But you take the wins any way you can get them. And offensively, Henry Kazmar had a couple of knocks. Evan Stone had the big 2 RBI hit. Kennedy Jones drove in a run, also drew a couple of walks. Scobie walked 3 times. You just piece this thing together and do the best you can when you're missing your 2 best offensive players. So now it's on to the Gators. Are you going to have Ethan Petrie? I don't know. Are you going to have Nathan Hall? I don't know. Here's Coach Mainieri. Let's get cut 2, Dave. Coach Mainieri talking about both Petrie and Hall and giving an injury update.
Well, Ethan's situation is more, I don't know if serious is the right word, debilitating than Nathan's. He's got what they call a strain of the AC joint in his left shoulder. It was such a freak injury. If you've watched the video of it, the ball took kind of a funny bounce, and he was kind of ready to play it. And when it took that funny bounce, he kind of accelerated to try to field the ball and rammed his left shoulder into the wall. but that injury is probably 2 to 4 weeks to heal. So there's a good chance that he's done for the year, but maybe he could get back for the last series or the SEC tournament. We'll have to see. In Nathan's case, remember when he hurt his heel at Texas A&M going after a home run ball, he whacked his heel. And it's never really completely gone away, and I probably won't until he rests it completely. And this past weekend, Kentucky has an artificial turf field, and it's particularly hard. There's not a sand base to it. And I worried about his heel pounding on that hard ground all weekend. And about 2/3 of the way through the game on Sunday, I could start to see him limping when he'd run out the center field, for a new inning. So I wasn't really surprised on Monday when he couldn't run at all. And we practiced on Monday, and he couldn't participate. So I didn't expect it to be any better or much better by today. So I almost put him in as a pinch hitter at one point, just have him jog to first base, but the situation ended up not calling for it. So he's taking batting practice and everything. We just got to see how it feels over the next couple days, and hopefully a couple days rested, and it'll be feeling better for him by Friday. Hopefully he'll be able to play.
All right, so with Ethan Petry, this might be it for Petry. Hall, better chance of getting him back before the end of the season. Focusing on Petry really quick. So the thought has been that this is it for Ethan Petry, and he'll go into the MLB draft after his third year at South Carolina. I just started digging into this, and I did for a little bit today. Then I had meetings I had to go to. Like ESPN, for an example, Petry is rated as their 63rd best prospect, which puts him roughly in that late probably could be the compensation round, somewhere late second, early third, somewhere in that neighborhood of the MLB draft. And so the guess is, unless some circumstance happens, and sometimes it does, where the player isn't happy with the offer, and sometimes players go back to school, unless that happens, the feeling is Petry would probably be done at South Carolina and move on to the draft if he gets fair draft compensation. And he does have leverage of being able to come back and play college baseball. But you feel like Petry, good chance he's done and he moves on. Now, I believe Nathan Hall is also draft eligible. I haven't had a chance to dig into Hall yet. So that's a whole other situation. But just focusing on Ethan Petry, you could have seen the last of Petry in a Gamecock uniform. We'll see. But with that injury, the way Coach Maneri is describing it, that might be it for Ethan Petry. Just in case you just woke up, we'll get you caught up on some of the headlines of what's going on in the day of sports. Just in case you just woke up and you didn't see this, another example of maybe why some parents shouldn't be allowed in the arena. We'll get into that next. Halftime show. David Ayers here, Terry Ford. Tyler's rolling from Firehouse, but take your time, Tyler, as long as you're carrying subs. No need to rush. That pretty much covered, Dave? That good? Halftime show till 3 on the game. Oh, just in case you just woke up here and you flipped on the halftime show on the game. Maybe you didn't see this last night. Indiana and Milwaukee. First of all, the Bucks had one of the epic meltdowns in NBA playoff history in the last 40 seconds. It's the first time, I think, in the history of NBA playoff games that a team has blown a 7-point lead in the last 40 seconds. Turnovers for Milwaukee, just missed shots. Just Milwaukee fell apart. And Bucks are up by 1. Pacers get the ball. Tyrese Halliburton, Indiana's excellent point guard, has the ball, and he's man up on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Even though Giannis is 7 feet tall, Giannis can guard the perimeter. One of the best defenders in the NBA. And Halliburton basically wins the one-on-one against Giannis. Takes Giannis to the rack, finishes, game-winning bucket. There's like a second and a half left roughly. Milwaukee gets it in bounds, heaves the thing to the parking lot. Game over. Indiana wins. Halliburton, a phenomenal moment for the young guard. And then his dad shows up. Why in the bleep does Tyrese Halliburton's dad decide it was a good idea to walk on the court and start taunting Giannis Antetokounmpo in a moment where he should be celebrating with his son and celebrating this moment? Instead, he decides to go and taunt Giannis. So Giannis and the dad are in each other's grill. Not a good look for either. And so what the dad did by acting like a jackass was he took away from his son's moment, took away from the Pacers' moment, took away from a great moment for NBA fans by acting like a Little League dad. And I won't lie, and I get like this about these things. First of all, I laugh at your stupidity. And two, and I know it won't happen for a bunch of reasons, but I'm sitting there going, man, there's a part of me that wants to see Giannis just drop this guy. Just take the 7 foot, 230 pounds of what 8% body fat, Tyler, probably on Giannis.
If that.
And I've seen Giannis just drop this dude right in that spot. And I know Giannis won't. He's too nice a guy. He shouldn't, because the lawsuit's going to cost him millions. But just for the fact of, just to show that, you know what? You think you're bulletproof because you're a dad or a fan, and you can do and say what you want to these guys. And yeah, they might, knock the taste out of your mouth and you can sue them. But just the idea once one of these guys does get the living hell knocked out of them, maybe it'll stop a few of these goofs from thinking they can do and say anything they want.
And I think the fact that Giannis has such a reputation as a nice guy is probably why Mr. Halliburton felt so inclined to go up there and trash talk to him, because, what's he going to do about it? And again, all it takes is one moment to make it. And he was angry after the game. All it takes is him for being a little too angry to haul off and smack you. And then we got a legal case and all that kind of stuff.
And you're going to lose if you're the player
I would say,
every time.
But you shouldn't have been on the court. That is not your place of business, Mr. Halliburton, whether your son's playing on the team or not. But like you said, it takes away from the moment. Because, again, your son has this amazing play. His team's advancing on in the series, like all this great stuff. And you bring a negative headline because you at 5'10", maybe, on a good day, tried to go nose-to-nose with Giannis. And this pull-apart brawl ensues and all this kind of stuff.
What does it say about you in general that in that moment, in that great moment, for your son, for his team, for the fans, and you're a fan because your son plays for that team, your first thought wasn't to run over and hug your kid or to celebrate with your family or your friends or your fellow fans, your first thought was to go taunt Giannis.
And now, if you're Tyrese Halliburton, instead of celebrating your moment and, hey, man, when you got what matched up one-on-one with Giannis, what was going through your mind? How'd you execute that play? Hey, why'd your dad end up on the court? Why'd you trying to fight Giannis? And again, I imagine the credentials of Mr. Halliburton may be scaled back significantly.
I hope so.
Going forward, I would hope so. Because again, you just can't do those kind of things.
Now, look, the dad apologized. Whether he was made to apologize or he apologized because he genuinely
It's like,
realized.
hey, do you want to come to any more Pacers playoff games this year? Apologize.
Right. And I mean, and look, I've always said this. When you're and Tyrese after the game said that wasn't good. That wasn't a good look for my dad at all.
No, of course not.
When I always thought, because again, unfortunately for my kids, I'm their dad, and I always think about. I never want to be in a position as a father to have to apologize for my behavior that negatively affects my kids.
Yes.
I never want to be that guy. I never want to have my family have to apologize for me for doing something ridiculous.
It's, it's the little league dad that is louder than everybody else when it comes to arguing with the official or umpires, officials, whatever it may be. And yeah, while you may not disagree with what they're saying, you're kind of sitting there like, come on, man, this is 12-year-olds playing baseball. Let's calm down a little bit. And
Take a breath, brother.
Again, I don't even know what Halliburton's dad said to Giannis Antetokounmpo, but that's a very accomplished basketball player Giannis is. So you're not exactly telling him he's trash, I hope, because he's not. Your son's team got the better of him last night and in the series, obviously. But yeah, I don't know what ground you have to stand on in reference to trash talking Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yes, it was just a bad look, and it's a shame because Tyrese Halliburton, that was his moment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like you
really
stole the spotlight from your own kid. That should have been the headline today. Tyrese Halliburton helps the Pacers win in overtime. Instead, it's Tyrese Halliburton's dad
I know,
is an idiot.
It's unreal to me. So that happened last night. And again, Tyrese Halliburton's old man apologized, which he should have, and he did. Tyrese Halliburton apologized for his dad, which is embarrassing. And now Indiana moves on, and now we see what happens with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Does he stay in Milwaukee? Does he say, look, you guys, we had a championship caliber team, and you guys screwed this thing up or whatever, even though Giannis had a hand in that with some of the things he wanted? Still, does Giannis now want to leave Milwaukee? We'll see. That's going to be an interesting offseason angle. Speaking of sons and kids, the reverse of this. The NFL has fined the Atlanta Falcons $250,000 and defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich $100,000 in response to Ulbrich's son's prank call to Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft. We played it a couple days ago if you haven't heard it. Maybe we'll have Dave dig it up again from Monday, Dave. Let me know if you find it. But if you cost me $100,000... If my kid,
you're going to make up for that.
I'm thinking about also. All right, ready? First of all, I'm thinking if my kid cost me $100,000, then I'm thinking if I'd have cost my dad $100,000. Now, do me a favor. Think if you'd have cost your dad $100,000.
Yeah, you're. While you may not be paying for that out of your own wallet necessarily, you're going to pay for it.
Oh, you're going to pay for it. You are absolutely going to pay for it because you cost me six figures because again. You're a goober.
And it's not the fact that you did it in the first place. It's the fact that you told on yourself by live streaming it on Twitch or Instagram or whatever it was on. Like, are you stupid?
Yeah, well, yeah, you are. And that's the thing. It's like not only because, look, I'm not going to lie. Did my share of prank phone calls when I was a kid.
Sure.
Whether it was,
But the beauty is they can't find you.
Yes, because back then there was no caller ID. There was no video streaming anything. Nobody was recording every phone call. You call the bowling alley. I don't know if that one's family friendly. You call like somebody, hey, is your refrigerator running?
Hey.
Better go catch it.
Hey, it's been there, bend over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We used to, there's this place called Best Products.
All right.
You probably didn't have them in the South. Best Products is a place where you go up and order something and you fill out this little thing and you put your order and you wait for them to call your name to go pick it up at the register kind of spot.
All right.
So we were goofy kids. We go to Best Product and use all the fake weird names. Like you said, so we could hear over the loudspeaker, could bend over and Eileen over and all
Seymour
those other,
Butts.
exactly, all those other dumb names. They're calling over the loudspeaker and we're laying in the corner laughing like we're the funniest dudes in the world, right?
Sure.
And though, as you get over, the guy picked up the thing and goes, His kids are
Yeah.
back.
That
Here
probably
we
happened
go.
at least once every single day in that man's life.
Out.
But again, they couldn't track you down
They
and
couldn't
find
track you down, and you didn't walk up to him and say, "Hey, by the way, that was me."
Yeah,
That's what video streaming
this is
right?
Terry Ford. I live at 123
Right.
Main Street in Baltimore.
Right.
It's like,
So-
no, you're telling on yourself.
Right. So really, the biggest part of this is you're an idiot for basically outing yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And
especially your dad is in a position of power. He is a high-profile person in the biggest league in football. You know this was eventually going to come back to you, right?
right. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time at the old brick house. Oh, you have it, Dave?
I know somebody that's not getting a birthday present for a while.
Yeah, I don't know if we have
Or
time.
a Christmas
How
present.
How long?
It's
is
about
it?
30 seconds. You can go real
Real quick, Dave, hit it.
Way to go! Say it one more time for me.
This is Mickey Loomis here, GM of the Saints.
How you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
Good, been waiting on you. Way to go!
Yeah, we have. It's been a long wait, man.
No, for sure.
We're going to take you with our next pick right here, man.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Let's be legendary.
Yeah, but you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, man.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
There it is. Firehouse Subtext. The hour is next here on the halftime show on the game. Firehouse sub text the hour 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. Then, we're going to circle back on that little prank phone call because you and I both have the same thought, and we have on this prank phone call. We'll get to it in a second. But first, 803-404-6100 Firehouse sub text line we got.
Nameless Texter says Halliburton never would have tried that with Draymond.
No, not at all. Not Draymond Green. Not, I'm blanking. Dylan Brooks. Not Charles Barkley back in the day. Not Dennis Rodman back in the day. No, not at all. You and I were talking about Draymond Green this morning.
Yeah,
we
exactly.
Said he wouldn't bow up on Draymond Green.
You know that there's a good chance he could haul off and hit you or hurt you in some kind of way.
Draymond hit his own teammate.
Exactly. Like Giannis is at least known as a nice, gentle kind of guy to where you knew your chances of getting hurt were lower, not zero, but lower. But he's getting angry, man. If I was John Halliburton, there was probably a point in there where I'm like, I think I've overstepped my boundaries. This guy might actually hurt me. And I don't know if there's many people here that are going to stop him from doing that.
I will say this, and I think we all have this buddy or we've known this guy, like the real laid-back big dude that you knew, though, if you flipped a switch, there could be death and carnage.
Sure.
I feel like Giannis is that guy that if you get him to the point where he's going to get mad, he's going to get his money's worth, and you're probably going to lose body parts.
Sure.
And I had a buddy like that. And I mean, and he was, like we would say today, he was yoked.
Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world. Could bench press a house. But one night we were out. We won't go into the deep story of this because, again, this is probably not very family friendly. But we were out one night, and some guy tested him. It did not end well for that guy. And all we did, and honestly, usually you try to jump in after a minute.
It's like, oh, he's got it.
Yeah, and we were like, first of all, he's handling it, and two, I don't want to be collateral damage in the middle of what he's doing.
You don't
want
want to catch the friendly fire.
No, because it was impressive and scary as hell all at the same time. Remember Wally right now.
Sure.
We don't want to get him like that, okay? And so I almost see like Giannis is such a nice guy, friendly guy, but Giannis is a big human being.
If he wanted to hurt you, he could.
Oh, he could hurt you. I mean, put it this way. There could be things you would never be able to do again physically after what he could do to you.
And my parents still have the dog and the cat back home, but our cat, her name is Smokey, and she loves to mess around with our dog, Piper. Piper's much bigger than Smokey is, but still crawl on her and scratch her and gnaw on her and all that kind of stuff. Piper very mild-mannered, but if Smokey starts playing too tough, what Piper will do will open her mouth and put it around Smokey's head. She will not bite, but she will merely let her know, hey, if I wanted to hurt you, I could. Sending the warning signal to calm down. I feel like that's kind of the situation. Like, I don't want to hurt you, sir, but if you keep pushing me, I'm not responsible for my actions.
Wouldn't it be funny if Giannis put his mouth over Halliburton's dad's head?
He might have been able to, if we're being honest. But again, it's that kind of warning shot like, I'm not going to hurt you right now, but if you keep pushing it, I can inflict damage on you.
Yeah, my buddy Wally, what he did to that guy, I had that guy's eyeball hanging over my rearview mirror.
Yeah.
The things it was unbelievable. It was insane.
And you could probably tell the moment when he realized he overstepped his boundary, right?
Yeah, and it didn't matter.
It's like, sorry, dude.
Because this guy was like, okay, man, okay. And the last things you heard from him before he was beaten unconscious was, okay, man, okay. Didn't care.
Yeah.
Again, you flicked the switch. Now you're going to get your money's worth. And I feel like if you flick Giannis' switch, right now, first of all, there'd be a chalk outline on the court.
Yeah.
Where Halliburton's dad was. And two, they'd be going like this. I found a finger in the parking lot. I found a finger. This might be your dad's. So, yes, you're right. But Texter, to your point, would not have done that to Draymond.
Yeah. And, again, I think there's going to be a stern talking to with him. He may not be sitting as close to courtside this time or next game. Because, look, your son is on the team. You are not. Being there, being in the arena, being courtside, that's privilege. You can lose that privilege.
Absolutely. And you know what? What needs to happen, what just happened to Jeff Ulbrich and the Falcons needs to happen to the Pacers. The Pacers, there needs to be a fine. And if you want to fine Tyrese Halliburton too, go ahead. But you need to, because you can't fine a dad.
Sure.
But you can eliminate him from the arena.
Yeah.
So I think what you do is you fine the team, and you then take away his ability to go to games for the rest of the postseason.
Or, what if the league suspends him? The league can say, hey, you're not allowed in the building.
And that's what I would
there's
do
nothing
for the
you
rest
can do
of the
about it.
postseason.
Yeah.
I would keep him out the rest of the postseason.
Maybe longer. I don't know.
And put up posters of him at every entrance.
And again,
So he
at
can't
this
get
point,
in.
everybody knows what he looks like, so he's not going to
True.
sneak in with
That's
a fake
true.
mustache.
So with like Bobby Valentine sitting in the
Yeah.
dugout with the Groucho Marx face.
But hey, he should be thanking his lucky stars he got out of that one alive.
Exactly.
That could have gone real bad.
I'm telling you. All right, we appreciate the text. With Texter, you are 150% correct. Would not have done that to Draymond Green. There's no doubt. But real quick on the prank phone call, you and I were both saying the prank phone call in itself was lame.
Yeah, he didn't. There was no punchline. There's no execution to it.
No, it was like, well, you have to wait.
Yeah, because Shedeur was confused when he got off because you
What?
ended it, and he's like,
Right.
"What?"
To me, and you and I were talking about, I said, to me, I would have said, hey, this is Mickey Loomis. You want to be a Saint? Yeah, well, you're not because you were an idiot in the interview.
There you
Click.
go. Then he realizes in the moment, I just got pranked.
Right. Man, Ashton Kutcher would have done this so much better. Or the guys from Jackass. All right, well, football, nothing but football coming up.
Welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head and Terry Ford hanging out with you today on your Wednesday. Gabadea producing on the other side of the glass. Making our way through the final day of April, getting into the month of May. Inching that much closer to the start of football season. I think we did the math, 80, just under 80 days until SEC Media Days, and then 100-something days until we get into the start of the college football season. So a lot of time between now and then as we anxiously await to see what South Carolina is going to be in 2025. So certainly looking forward to that. And, again, a lot of analysis about this team as the summer rolls along. And that is one, a real positive when it comes to the fact that you're coming off of a 9-win season. There's a lot of positives coming off of a 9-win season, obviously. But one of the biggest ones is the fact that you're just going to be talked about a lot, right? And we're going to run through a post-spring top 25 coming up here in a couple minutes, from on 3. But you look at Heisman projections, all these kind of things. South Carolina's in the conversation, right? Lenore Sellers projected to be a first-round pick next year. Nick Harbor getting a lot of buzz as he goes into his third year here at South Carolina. It's just nice to be in headlines and be talked about because, man, a year ago, coming off of a 5-7 year, and look, we're in the business of content, and we try and find times when the national media is talking about South Carolina and bring that into our own conversations. There wasn't a whole lot of that last year, and rightfully so, because South Carolina had a disappointing year. But coming off of a 9-3 regular season, 9-4 overall with the bowl game loss to Illinois, you're just relevant, and that feels good. We've talked about plenty of times when you go to media days coming up here in a couple months, you're speaking on Monday, but guess what? You're going to be talked about throughout the rest of the week because you're a team that mattered. You were on the bubble of the college football playoff, and that doesn't translate to wins on the field when the fall gets here, but it is just nice to see Carolina in, headlines and in the overall conversation in general.
Yeah, what we've seen so far is really cool, right? I mean, you see Lenore Sellers looked at as, one of the top quarterbacks returning in the country, looked at as way too early 2026 mock draft, top 10 pick, 6th in Heisman odds or whatever the case. And you see in South Carolina, we'll get to Andy Staples' top 25 after the spring games. We'll get to that here in a little bit. After spring practice. And again, South Carolina's in the top 25 and a lot of the top 15s, top 12s. So it is cool because we get to debate it and talk about it. And it's fun to have a team projected on the cusp of possibly getting the college football playoff. And look, we've also had the conversation. The flip side of that is, okay, you lost a lot of players, a lot of starters, a lot of contributors to last year's 9 wins, and you got to replace them. But guess what? Pretty much a lot of other teams lost players too. Yep. In this world we live in, we're always so focused on the team that we talk about and cover or root for. But in this transient transfer portal, get me to the NFL as fast as possible world of college football, almost everybody's losing something. And it's just who can fill the cupboard, right? Yep. Whether it's next man up on your own team who's developed, hitting the portal, whatever it is, everybody's replacing important pieces. If you and I sat here and went through every team that made the college football playoff last year, they're replacing vital parts of their football team.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
And, yeah, South Carolina, you second most seniors, I guess, on a roster in the country last year, if I remember correctly. So you got a lot to replace, but so does everybody else. Look at the SEC. Alabama's replacing a quarterback. Ole Miss is replacing a lot of pieces. Remember, Ole Miss was set up to be great last year. Remember?
Last year was their last dance. Everybody was going to come in, and they were going to go and make the playoff and win a national championship, and, well, they didn't make the playoff. They won that Gator Bowl, though.
Lane made sure that everybody knew they got screwed by winning the Gator Bowl by 100. Change anybody's mind?
That'll show them. Taught them a lesson.
Yeah, disrespect us. We'll go to the Gator Bowl and punk somebody. But they're replacing a lot of players. I mean, LSU dove into the portal huge after having an underwhelming season. Georgia, Kirby even doing a little bit more than he typically would do to try to fix some things. And you think about these teams, okay? And we'll go, like I said, we're going to hit the Andy Staples top 25 this hour. Look at the SEC. Alabama's replacing a starting quarterback. So is Ole Miss. So is Georgia. LSU is bringing a quarterback back, but Ole Miss is fixing a lot of things. I mean, LSU's trying to fix a lot of problems that they had last year.
You're one of the few teams in the conference that can comfortably sit here and say you have your quarterback situation figured out. Yeah, there's some teams around the conference that have an established starter like a Zach Calzada at Kentucky. I don't know how high the confidence level is with him. There's a reason he had to go back to FCS a couple years ago after starting his career at Texas A&M. And again, it seems like Ty Simpson's going to be the Alabama quarterback. What does that mean? We don't know. Certainly a guy like John Mateer coming in with a lot of fanfare to Oklahoma from Washington State that is expected to make them a good solid team. But a lot of teams around this conference alone just don't quite have that confidence. Even Texas. Again, Arch Manning's the projected #1 overall pick, best Heisman odds, all that kind of stuff. But you don't know, because he hasn't started enough quality games to really have an idea of how good he's going to be. So even there's a level of concern out in Austin as well.
Sure, and look at all the players Texas is replacing from last year. How many, Longhorns had double-digit players drafted.
Yeah.
So you're replacing a lot of people. Yeah, do you have a lot of talent on your roster? Sure, but you're depending on next man up or the portal like everybody else. You go through this league, everybody is going through the same type of thing South Carolina is. So when we talk about, South Carolina's got to replace a lot of players, yes, but so does everybody else. And I guess the hope, obviously, is you have one guy on both sides of the ball who can affect the game in Dylan Stewart and Lenore Sellers. And that's more than some teams have who are trying to piece things together. So that's your hope. But again, it's not, it's not like South Carolina's the only team that's got to, scramble to replace parts that they've lost. So we'll see where it all goes. But to your point, it's great to be able to have these conversations about you matter.
Sure.
Which beats the heck out of when you don't matter. So we'll get into Andy Staples' top 25 here in a little bit. Real quick, latest from the transfer portal on Nolan Hay from Gamecock Central. Nolan Hay scheduled for his official visit was earlier yesterday, and the trip is expected to last until Thursday, and Hay will likely make a decision soon after it's completed. Feels like these guys always have a good time when they come here.
Seems that way.
So we'll see what happens if Nolan Hay ends up at South Carolina. We'll find out. We'll see what's going on there. But on his visit right now, according to Gamecock Central, should last till tomorrow. Other transfer portal deal, former South Carolina offensive lineman Cam Pringle is transferring to Syracuse. So he is in a power league and Syracuse at a program that was
good season last year.
Yeah, really
Graham
good
Brown,
season.
year one, they overachieved. They eliminated Miami from playoff hopes at the end of last season. Like that's a program that's on the rise. Again, doesn't mean he's going to go there and start, but good for him. Best of luck.
Yeah, I still think he's a guy who is developing. And could he get on the field this year? I mean, sure. I mean, we'll see. But I feel like he still will be in that development phase at Syracuse. But maybe he feels like he's closer to getting on the field at Syracuse than he was at South Carolina.
Sure.
But good for him. Very good for him. So we will see where that goes for Cam Pringle. But he has a landing spot. He didn't go to Appalachian State with everybody else.
No, because that kind of seems like the trend, which makes sense. Again, you have a coach that you're familiar with, Emory Floyd, Dante Reno, maybe kind of leading that way as well. Go soft landing spot, a guy that knows your talent and can maybe help you get ahead of some of the other guys in the locker room.
Absolutely. So Cam Pringle landing at Syracuse. Gamecock Central also. You guys are going through all the positions, position groups. And I saw the Gamecock Central had their thing about the linebackers up today.
Mm-hmm.
And, just kind of looking at that, and we talked about this yesterday, who's going to replace all those linebackers. And we were talking about some of the freshmen, and, it could happen that you see a freshman get legit snaps this year. It's going to depend on, again, like we talk about, Johnson stepping up, transfer portal guys developing and becoming what everybody thought they would become. Freshmen on this football team in general, you can see some of these freshman wide receivers getting some real playing time. Maybe some freshman linebackers. Maybe who knows where it's coming from in other parts of this football team too, with freshmen stepping up. Freshmen are going to get an opportunity to play in some very important spots with South Carolina this year. And we again, watching the spring game, you don't want to make too much of a spring game, but those wide receivers all showed you a little something that you can go, that was interesting.
No, you see the promise there, and again, spring game, take it with a grain of salt because there are plenty of guys that have showed out in spring games that never show up in the fall. So you do see the idea of what these guys could be. And again, how much better is Nick Harbor this year? How is Jared Brown? How is Vendrevious Jacobs? Like the questions go on in terms of the guys you have returning. And if there's an opportunity for a freshman to step up, can they?
Yeah. So we'll see where that goes. The running back room. These aren't freshmen, but, you got a couple of young guys in that running back room. I mean, it might not be Faison and Attaway before it's all said and done. We think it's going to be, and then the young guys are going to get some snaps, but we feel like it's going to be Faison, Attaway, Faison in some way, shape, or form. But don't be surprised if, like Matthew Fuller. Shane talked a ton about Matthew Fuller after the spring game, just the burst for a guy that big. And we'll see. Hal, I think Juwan Howell's got some ability. So, again, the unknown there's unknown at running back, unknown at wide receiver, unknown on the offensive line, unknown at tight end, unknown at defensive line, unknown at linebacker, unknown at corner, unknown at safety. Besides that, we're good.
I'd say the two things we know, you've got a high-level quarterback, you've got a really darn good pass rusher. That's kind of it. Mm-hmm. Everything else besides that is some areas more question marks than other, but kind of we'll see.
Yeah. There's no other spot besides those two players. Like, for an example, you've got a corner coming back in Judge Collier, but you don't have a starter on the other side. You've got 2/3 of your safety nickel, but you are missing a guy that just was a second-round pick in the NFL draft.
I was going to say, I think the secondary is probably outside of quarterback and edge the spot you feel the most comfortable with, given those factors. But still, it's not a slam dunk. Oh yeah, well, there's no worry there. We're all good. Like, no, you still have some concern.
If you put a corner on the field that can't handle it and is getting beat, teams are going to, I don't know, Tyler, zero in on the guy that can't cover anybody.
Probably.
So, I mean, you feel good with Cisse coming out of the portal in NC State. One of the two spots you feel like he's going to take, either nickel or corner. One of those two spots. Everybody else is, that guy looked good in phases last year. Like Vakari Swain. There's moments Vakari Swain looked really good. There's moments Vakari Swain looked like a young guy who he was. Could he step up and develop this year? I don't know. Peyton Williams, God love him. Every time he got on the field, it seemed like he was solid and held his own.
Sure.
Could he take the next step to be a starter? I don't know. But we're going to find out some of the questions there, even though, like you said, you feel more comfortable in the secondary than you do in some other spots.
Yep.
All right, we got a lot of baseball coming up here on the game this weekend. Florida coming to town. 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch from Founders on Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. It all gets rolling Friday night, 6:45, right here on the game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach as well. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour. Andy Staples did his post-spring practice / spring game top 25. We'll tell you where South Carolina is, and we'll kind of roll through that top 25 next as we talk nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. David Dare, Tyler Head, Terry Ford here on the game. Our buddy Paul Romanstein, the owner of Midlands Landscape and Lawns, wants to remind you that, hey, your yard's pretty important. And here comes the summer. You know what that means? Weeds. A lot of weeds. Don't let those weeds steal your summer. Midlands Green Treatment Program delivers professional fertilization. It'll nourish your lawn and eliminate those nasty weeds. And also Midlands Landscape and Lawn. Look, Paul Romanstein's been in business a long time. One of the reasons he treats every customer like he's your neighbor. And he lives next door to you. You want your yard to be the envy of the neighborhood. You want people to go by and go, that's a nice yard. So stop fighting that losing battle. Visit hateweeds.com today. That's hateweeds.com. Don't wait any longer. Again, it's hateweeds.com or give Paul a call, 803-356-8080, 803-356-8080 for Midlands Landscape and Lawns. Again, have Paul come over and treat his lawn, your lawn, like his lawn.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. I hear you, so that's the important part. Yeah, you shouldn't. They're in a commercial break. Yep.
All right, we talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Let's get our buddy Dimitri Ravenos in here. You here? Where you at? We got you? Dimitri, where you at?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Is he in parts unknown like the Ultimate Warrior?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we
Now
can.
we got
now we
you.
can.
All right.
Now we
I
got
didn't
you.
do anything. That's got to be your fault.
It couldn't be yours.
I mean, look, I'm just sitting here staring at a wall with a microphone.
All right.
How are you boys today?
We are phenomenal.
Terry just missed out on biting into a very hot sandwich a moment ago.
Yeah. They bring me back some. We do these Firehouse shows once a month.
Sure.
And they bring me back a sub, and our sales guy makes my sub special, which scares me. And they have this, what was it called, these hot pickles?
It's the hot ones sandwich with the spicy sauce on it.
I'm not good with spicy hot stuff, Dimitri. It's not, doesn't end well for me. So,
all right.
So there's a pickle on it, and I looked at it and said, is that one of those hot pickles? I don't know, but I'm going to move it. And you know when you bite into a sandwich that has had something hot on it, you have the little residue?
Well, especially with a pickle, right? Like a pickle doesn't just pick up and move. It's going to leave a little bit behind.
Oh, it was a hot pickle.
Yeah, so he dodged that bullet.
You might have been talking to Tyler as I'm being put into the ambulance. But anyway.
I would ask you I would have been asking you the steps of CPR as I was trying to resuscitate him.
All right.
Thoughts and prayers to the Cumulus Media toilet later.
Yeah, it would not have been pretty. All right, Dimitri, obviously NFL draft just passed us. We'll get to Carolina in a minute. But first, obviously, the whole world's got an opinion on what happened with Shedeur Sanders. I'm guessing you have one, too.
I really don't. I mean, I know that's crazy, but like I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't think Shedeur is a day one quarterback, but to be fair, I don't think Cam Ward's a day one quarterback. Like, I think the Titans and the Giants and anybody that thinks they got their franchise quarterback in this draft will be doing this same dance in 2 years. So I'm not surprised that Shedeur did not go day one. I was very surprised he didn't go in day two because I thought he was the guy that could come in and start right away of all the rookie quarterbacks. Now, that being said, I don't think he's ever going to get much better than he is right now. So, like, does that make sense? Like, high floor, but very low ceiling. Like, that's not somebody you take a big risk on.
Yeah, we talked about it here. It's just one of those things, again, whatever reason it came down, you know, this was that guy, and we've all known this guy who thinks he's better than he really is and carries himself like he's great, and he's the only person that thinks he's great. And whether it was bad information, bad intel Dad got, well, whatever it was. And
I think it was bad information that Dad got, and then Dad ran with it in a way that turned people off. Like, in a way that was not... Like, I have heard that by the Combine, whatever the reality of the situation was, must have gotten back to Colorado in the Sanders camp, because all of a sudden it became very hard for people to get information out of Colorado about Shedeur, not about everybody, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Dimitri Ravenos hanging out with us, talking some football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the Game. All right, so Carolina Panthers, they grab McMillan, the wide receiver. They get the defensive lineman from A&M in the second round. You get Princely from Ole Miss, the edge pass rusher in the third round. Interesting pick with Trevor Etienne, Georgia, in the fourth round.
Hate it. What
do you think of the draft?
Overall, I would say a B. I get the thinking behind Teteroa McMillan. It's still, I would have rather have had Jalen Walker. Everybody that says, well, Jalen Walker's a mid player in a mid draft, I say to you, hello, person that did not watch Georgia the last 3 years. I think Teteroa McMillan gives them a weapon they did not have in the passing game, and clearly Dan Morgan and Bryce Young, who apparently got input on this, thought there was a big drop-off from T-Mac to the next wide receiver in this draft, and they went out and in the next 2 rounds got 2 guys that are capable of starting at various levels of the pass rush. So I can't be angry at it. It's just not necessarily what I would have done. Now, Trevor Etienne in the 4th round, Jesus Christ, like, talk about a wasted pick.
Again, he's a guy that, has he ever stayed healthy in his career?
I mean, it's different than Jonathan Brooks, right? Like with Brooks, we're dealing with a dude who can't keep his ACL together. Etienne, it's ribs, totally different ball game. But I think when you combine it with the fact that the Panthers literally do not have the league bare minimum of safeties right now, it's inexplicable and frankly inexcusable.
You know, and we're talking to Dimitri Ravenos right now about the Carolina Panthers draft here on the halftime show. Dimitri, you know, look, and I know where you're going with Walker, because there were a few teams who were picking in like the top 10 to 12 range, and I don't know why they didn't take Walker, because he's a top 5 value pick on the board, and like you said, the tape tells you it's there. And in this draft, which really, look, you've got a couple of generational type talents, but this is not what you call the most wow draft in the world. A guy like Walker, who has measurables, and maybe he could step up to be something more than you saw, why you didn't take a flyer on the guy a lot of people had 5th in value is beyond me. So I'm with you on that.
I don't even think it was a flyer necessarily. I think all the guys that you look at in this draft and think future superstar, they were on the defensive side of the ball, and he is one of them. I mean, I think it's a short list. I think Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter are on this different level, and Jalen Walker is the guy that's right there below them. I think he's going to end up being very good in this league. Will it be for the Falcons? I mean, they're the Falcons. They're going to figure out some way to screw this up.
You're not wrong. Well, they've already gotten in trouble for what their DC's kids doing.
Exactly. So. I mean, you even get in trouble when you don't do anything. That's what the Falcons do.
And let's not forget, they gave up their 1st rounder next year to get back in the draft for a guy who I believe is going to come into the league under disciplinary measures.
Oh, we can't do everything right.
Hey,
or in the Falcons' case, anything.
Talking football with Dimitri Ravenos on the halftime show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors.
They did at least finally draft a guy from that NFL talent factor in their backyard for the first time in the first or second round.
They lifted their boycott against the University of Georgia. Hey, the thing about McMillan to me real quick, and the one concern, I know everybody wants to compare him to, you know, Evans or, you know, London or some of these other big receivers with big catch radiuses. My concern with guys like that is if you can't separate in college and you can't separate, you're not going to be able to separate in the NFL. So you better be able to catch the ball in traffic. You better be the king of contested catches, because almost everything thrown to you in some way, shape, or form is going to be contested.
I mean, the good news is that is kind of what Tet McMillan was at Arizona. I do think that, to your point, you probably are not going to as reliably be a foot and a half taller than the guy covering you as you were at Arizona. But I do think that Bryce Young showed an ability last year to what at first glance seems like he is overthrowing the ball is really putting it where only somebody the size of Xavier Leggett could go get it. Now, when you add to that not only Teteroa McMillan, but also Mitchell Evans, the tight end they got later in the draft, who's 6'6", that I think ends up feeling a little bit better. I guess the question is, okay, so what is the plan now for XL, or what is the plan for McMillan? Because both of them can't be the X wide receiver in this offense.
Real quick, Dimitri, third day pick you like the most for the Panthers?
I really, the third day I really did not like. I tell you what, I'll give you undrafted free agent. I like the most was Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker out of Florida State. Like, I think they have the potential to have found their guy at that position for the next 10 to 15 years.
The good news is for the Carolina Panthers, they're in division with the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints.
And the
And
Buccaneers.
please, I was about to say, please do not sell the Buccaneers short on ineptitude.
Put it this way, the Buccaneers are lucky they're in a division with the Carolina Panthers, Atlanta Falcons, and New Orleans Saints.
The division, I believe, single-handedly is responsible for the resurgence of Baker Mayfield's career.
Not going to disagree with you. Oh, this team is killing us. Great podcast. We appreciate you jumping in with us like always, my man.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you.
All right, we'll see you, Dimitri Ravenos.
The NFC South's going to be the division solely responsible for getting the seeding thing changed in the playoffs. Because you're going to get another 7-10 team winning the division.
Or it could bring relegation to the NFL.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah, that
You get relegated to the UFL. We'll bring up the Birmingham Stallions.
All right, we talk a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the Game. Now we'll get Andy Staples, top 25 after spring practice. His list is next on the Game. We're talking a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. Andy Staples, way too early. I shouldn't say way too early. A post-spring practice top 25. Number 1, Texas. But again, that's a team, like we talked about, everybody's replacing pieces. Andy Staples says if we're going to bet on Arch Manning, might as well go all in. And he'll lead the Longhorns to a national championship. Number 2, Notre Dame. Andy's all in on how great their offensive line is. And that, younger players played last year because of injury. Now they have more experience. And the young quarterback, C.J. Carr, has a bigger arm than they've seen there in years at quarterback. So maybe the offense will be a tick better. And the defense should be solid again this year. So Notre Dame at number 2. Clemson at 3. And one of the biggest additions for Clemson, Andy Staples brings up, I agree with this, Tom Allen, defensive coordinator. Guy's a high-level DC. And look what he did last year at Penn State. So Clemson's got a very good defensive coordinator that can get the defense maybe back to what it used to be, is the thought process. And, Cade Klubnik and a lot of pieces on offense are back. So Clemson's sitting at 3. Penn State's at 4. You bring your quarterback, Drew Aller, back. You hit the transfer portal to get receivers. You got Jim Knowles at defensive coordinator, replacing Allen. Knowles leaving Ohio State, getting paid a lot of money to go to Penn State. And there was talk that, Knowles was having some issues with the head coach a bit at Ohio State. So Jim Knowles, excellent DC, goes to Penn State. Ohio State at 5. Again, you are going to see if the young kid Sayin can be the starting quarterback. Julian Sayin, right now, he seems to be the leader in the clubhouse for the gig. 5-star recruit. You have Jeremiah Smith. You have a ton of other talent on both sides of the ball. Caleb Downs at safety. And Ohio State, like Texas, reloading, like always. With a 5-star leaves, they just say, okay, which one of you other 55 stars want to take his place? Oregon's at 6. Again, replacing a quarterback. Dylan Gabriel's gone. Dante Moore's going to step in. They've added some pieces from the portal that should help them. And they still have talent on both sides of the ball. Oregon, Dan Lanning's done a really, really nice job in recruiting. And they're not afraid to hit the portal with Phil Knight's money. This one's interesting. Alabama at 7. Ty Simpson, I don't know. We'll see. They tried to hand Simpson the quarterback job 2 years ago, gave him a chance to start against South Florida or get to play. He played against South Florida. Yep. Didn't start. He got in that game.
Buckner started that game.
Buckner started that game. Simpson came in for Buckner because Buckner was so bad. Then Simpson was bad. And everybody was so bad, they went back to Jalen Milroe the next week.
Yeah. So he had his chance, didn't get it then. And
that was 2 years ago, to be fair.
It sounds like he's leading the charge right now coming out of spring practice, but it's not what you read and what you hear. It doesn't instill a lot of confidence. Like, he's by and far the best guy in this room, and they got Keelan Reynolds and one other young guy in that room, I think, that's competing for the job. But it doesn't sound like it's an open and slam dunk thing that, yes, Ty Simpson is your best option, but kind of similarly to the way we're talking about Coach Maneri coming into his first year back in the SEC. Kalen DeBoer's now gotten a taste of the SEC, and they got punched in the mouth a few times this year. I think that was a cold reality wake-up call. What can you do to be better in year number 2? Does he have it figured out, or is he going to fall further? I think that's the big question here.
I think it's a legit question.
They got a ton of talent, and as we talked about the other day, they didn't have this mass exodus like could have happened if maybe Milroe comes back. So you do retain a ton of talent, 4- and 5-star guys, still left over from the Saban era. Very good recruiting class this past year, so can they live up to it? We'll see.
And you bring Ryan Grubb in as your offensive coordinator.
Yep.
You get reunited again with Kalen DeBoer. To me, a lot of this is Ty Simpson or whoever quarterbacks this team. Look, Ty Simpson was a 5-star recruit, but he played in a small class in high school, not like a high classification.
From Tennessee, right?
Yep, and Elijah was telling me he played in a really low-level class, and he dominated.
Yeah.
But again, what does that get you? And when you get to college, you have to make a huge adjustment. Some guys don't. You tell a story.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
Brock Vandegrift played at Prince Avenue Christian right down the street from where I used to work at and right there in town with UGA, and he played 1A private school football and dominated. He was also 6'5". You know what I mean?
Huge dude. Right.
His like best wide receiver. I forget the kid's first name. Last name was Johnson, but he was like 5'10", little plucky guy that ended up walking on at Georgia, but didn't get any major offers. Coming out of high school. So when he stepped up to SEC competition, as I saw last year, he couldn't handle it, and now he's not even in football anymore. So I'm always weary of guys from smaller schools. They get these high classifications because, yes, they can put up crazy numbers, and I'm sure they can look good in the skills drills at camps and all that kind of stuff, but playing actual football, it's different when you're going up against, defensive ends that are $170 and, 6 foot compared to 6'5" and 250.
Exactly. The guys that play defensive end in some of these classifications are punters.
Exactly.
Once you get to college.
It's a different animal.
Yes.
And again, if Simpson was good, he may have already either taken the job or gone somewhere else and taken a job.
Right. And we'll see where it goes. But Ty Simpson right now is the quarterback at Alabama. We'll see what happens. Georgia's at 8. They bring in some portal wide receivers and Noah Thomas from A&M, Zachary Branch. I like Zachary Branch. I think when he was a freshman, it didn't get to that next level, but maybe a Georgia Zachary Branch can.
And Georgia receiver was their big issue last year. Obviously, the guys that had drops, and this isn't the only reason Carson Beck struggled, but it felt like Carson Beck was trying to force it a little bit. And because you didn't have elite receivers, you lost Brock Bowers, lost Ladd McConkey from the prior seasons. And, I looked at that when they lost to Alabama. I said, this team does not have elite wide receivers, and that ended up being persistent throughout the entire year.
So we'll see. And Gunnar Stockton takes over at quarterback at Georgia. Number 9 is Illinois. Got a lot of guys coming back. Luke Altmaier, the quarterback, is returning. Here's my thing, and this isn't about the bowl game and about just how much of a whatever Brett Bielema comes off as. It's just the idea that, and maybe it's mean, they're Illinois.
Right.
I mean, are they? What? I mean, you're putting them in the top 10 in the country, and I get they got a lot coming back. I understand, but do you really look at them? And right now, I was going to bring their schedule up, and I didn't. Can you really look at them on the same level, even if it's 1 year as Ohio State or Penn State, or Oregon for that matter in the Big Ten?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's going to take sustained success for you to kind of look at them differently because, look, they're a program that, they went to a Rose Bowl 25 years ago now. Mm-hmm. They've had a successful season here and there, but they've not been a consistent contender in the Big Ten. And give credit to Brett Bielema because last year was a really good year. They won 10 games and obviously beat South Carolina in the process of doing that. But I think so many of us are still in a wait-and-see approach. Like, okay, is this a flash in the pan? Did you just strike the iron with good talent for 1 year? Or is this something you're going to be able to do consistently? Because let's be honest, Brett Bielema has had an up-and-down coaching tenure in college football. He's had good years. He's had bad years. When he got to Arkansas in the SEC, it was a whole lot of bad. You know what I mean?
And if you look at the schedule, there is no Ohio. There's Ohio State. They get Washington at UW. They're going to
Wisconsin's tricky.
They got Wisconsin. They got to go to Duke. Is Indiana going to be who they were last year? They got to go to Indiana. So I mean, again, this schedule is tougher than last year.
It is. Could they still flirt with an 8-9-1 season? Sure.
If they're as good as people think.
Yeah. Now they did lose McCray, their running back, to Georgia. Somebody that gave South Carolina fits last year. So we'll see what happens.
This is going to be an interesting year at Texas Tech. They are the kings of the portal.
No, they're cashing in, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of bags being thrown around in Lubbock. Coach Joey McGuire will be on the hot seat. A lot of really, really rich dudes are throwing money at Texas Tech football. That we would spend a whole hour on all their additions in the portal.
It's almost like they woke up one day and said, we're in a state that has a lot of money coming through it. Maybe we should utilize that.
We got a lot of rich guys who went to our school. Let's call them.
Yeah, we have the most famous player in the NFL right now.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this. McGuire, if you're making a list of coaches who better win big this year, Joey McGuire at Texas Tech is there. Number 12 is South Carolina. We know the whole spiel with Lenore Sellers, Dylan Stewart, Carolina sitting. That's that cusp line of the playoff, right?
Yep.
At number 12. So South Carolina sitting at 12, right behind South Carolina. Auburn at 13 surprised me a little bit. They had last year was really weird on the Plains, right?
Yep.
I mean, I know you got Jackson Arnold to be your quarterback. You get Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton. So you added some firepower. And Auburn last year, it wasn't like they were getting blown out of every game, but they were a team that, again, was
You didn't have good quarterback play.
No, and now you think you think Jackson Arnold's going to solve your problems. Okay.
Hugh Freeze believed that in a second year he could turn Peyton Thorne into something. Didn't really happen.
Yeah.
Now, again, we saw Jackson Arnold at Oklahoma. Is he a different guy going to Auburn? Hopefully with an offensive line that can protect him better. We'll see.
Well, Hugh Freeze tells you he can develop quarterbacks.
Well, he can whisper to
Yeah,
them.
he whispers. Also, real quick, SEC, you have Tennessee at 21, Ole Miss at 19, LSU at 15, and then, like I said, Auburn at 13. All right, so that is a spin through Andy Staples' post-spring practice top 25. Firehouse Sub Text the hour next, 803-404-6100. Talking nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. Time for our Firehouse Sub text of the hour, 803-404-6100. What do you got, man?
All right, going back to our conversation about the prank phone call that failed to execute when it came to Jeff Ulbricht's son on Shador Sanders. Our texter Robert says celebrity soundboards back in the day for prank phone calls. I mean, you can make it sound like somebody was like, hey, this is Tom Cruise calling Joe Smith.
Great text. I'd forgotten about those. Fantastic. That would have been so good.
Have you ever heard the John Cena one? It went viral. There's a YouTube video of it where it's apparently this radio station called this woman who was against professional wrestling for some reason to try and sell her tickets to like the Super SmackDown coming this Sunday, and she gets madder and madder and madder. They keep playing the John Cena music in the background. It's great.
That is good. Yeah, I've heard the Cena. That celebrity soundboard, thumbs up.
Yeah.
Very nice call.
Well, you feel like that, especially with AI and stuff today, you feel like that'd be like making a comeback, right?
You would think.
Yeah.
I mean,
before its time, I guess.
It's so easy because AI, because even we like as a company are starting to mess around with the AI stuff. There's so many things you can do.
Sure.
I mean, to me, this would be easy.
You can make anybody say anything now.
Yes. Even like you can put yourself in a fake presentation.
Yeah.
Like you're doing that even though you're not. And remember, like in the beginning of AI, like everybody had blue faces or something, or they had 3 fingers like Fred Flintstone or whatever.
Sure.
But there are programs now that's wiped all that out where it looks like it's actually you.
There was last year when Brian Ferentz, or 2 years ago now, when Brian Ferentz had to fire his son as defensive coordinator at Iowa, there was that fake clip of him going around saying, hey, everybody get out of my butt, essentially.
Right.
And Preston will send me clips that he wants for the show the next day. And he sent me this, all capital letters, got to get this, got to get this. And I'm like, Preston, I'm pretty sure that's AI.
That ain't real,
He's
dude.
like, but it looks so real. Because it looked real, but it wasn't. I was like, they got you on that one, man.
With this stuff today, the celebrity soundboard should come back hard.
I absolutely think so.
Do you remember the one from the 70s, a famous DJ who I won't name, who called a famous fast food restaurant, who I won't name, and ordered 1,200 hamburgers? And he said, well, we're with the military. Give me those hamburgers right now. And the guy's going, okay, yes, sir, yes, sir.
Explain that one to your boss.
When the 1,200 hamburgers show up.
And then he starts going, like 13 with no onions, 35 with ketchup
So
only.
good. You know, when the FCC made that against the rules, it hurt radio because one of the best things with the radio show is you made prank phone calls.
Oh, sure.
They were the best. Or you get people to call and go, okay, all right, so who do you want to prank? We did one where we would have callers call and have us do certain pranks. And we did this one thing for Valentine's Day. We had it was just in general fly. It was a birthday. This guy was having his birthday.
Okay.
And we set up this prank phone call to call his girlfriend because she didn't get him anything yet. And it was like in the morning she hadn't said anything about birthday or nothing.
Okay.
And so he's going to call and say, hey, thanks for the flowers. And see if she would admit she didn't send them or if she was going to go with it, right?
Okay.
And it was just this harmless little prank. And she goes, never forget it. She's like, no, I didn't send you flowers. Who's the bleep that sent you flowers? I'll rip her throat out. Who is this? Who are you bleeping around with? What are you? And she lost it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she went nuclear. And we're sitting here hitting dump buttons, and it was insane. And it was a harmless little thing, and she made it epic.
Yeah.
But, oh, my God, we were like, call us tomorrow if you're still alive. He called the next day. He's like, yeah, she's really mad. I told her what happened.
Yeah.
So what happened? Then she got madder because it was on the radio.
And now she's been publicly shamed and embarrassed.
But yeah, prank phone calls were a thing, man. Even radio was
that's
gigantic. Phenomenal. I mean, and when you were a kid, you did it. You'd call the bowling alley. You got 14-pound balls? So, you know. Anyway. But yes, that's Celebrity Boy. I'd forgotten about that. That's a great text.
I think there's some like YouTube channels that may still do it, but it's certainly not as prevalent as it once was.
No, it was something there for a while, wasn't it?
Sure.
We always appreciate you on the text line, 803-404-6100, sponsored by Firehouse Sub. All right, what's trending at 2 is coming up. Tyler's going to handle that. You're going to re-rack a conversation you guys had earlier today at 2:15.
Yeah, J.D. Piquel from On 3, we had him on in the 9 o'clock hour, talk some Little Sellers, and also this debate of 100 gorillas or 100 men versus one gorilla. He gave his take on that as well. Are you up on this?
Just a little bit. Help me, enlighten me.
It's one of those things that somebody put a tweet out a couple days ago that everybody and their brother is now commenting on of, hey, you know, if 100 dudes locked in, they could beat one gorilla. And it's like, no, they can't. A gorilla's a beast. You know what I mean? So a lot of discourse back and forth, and we got his thoughts on that as well.
Okay, so I'll just throw this out. Top of my head. All right, you got 100 dudes grappling with a gorilla, right?
Correct. No weapons.
All right, so let's say you win because you get the gorilla, but ready, you're down to like 19 dudes.
I was going to say, he's going to take some guys out.
Do you want to be in that thing where there's a good chance that you get taken out?
You have a 20% chance of dying in this battle against the gorilla.
You want to get into that mess? When you might get him, but he's going to get a lot of you before you get him.
He's going to take a few of you down with him. Don't worry.
So I think I would pass on that in general, but he has so JD
he's been tweeting about it. He had some thoughts.
It's pretty funny. All right, what's trending at 2 coming up next? I'll jump back in here. We'll talk about the greatest day in the history world, bottom of the hour. But Tyler's going to take you through what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Next on the halftime show on the game. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. It's here to help you. You're getting older, and nothing's like it used to be. Nothing. And, of course, you're a guy, so you sit around and you don't tell anybody because we're manly. But you're going, well, what's going on with me? What's happening with me? I'm falling apart. Oh, my God, what's going to happen next? And it's just human nature. But it could just be simply low testosterone. That could be it. Or if nothing else, you can make sure that's not it. Call 803-875-MENS. Set up an appointment. It's free. It's confidential with Dr. Dan and the staff. Tell them your story. I'm not sleeping like I used to. I'm not as strong as I used to be. I don't recover from exercise like I used to. I can't remember stuff. I have no drive, any kind of drive. And they might be some lab. They'll do some lab work, and if it is low testosterone, they'll put you on a program specifically designed for you. 803-875-MENS. Make that call. Men's Clinic of South Carolina.
2 o'clock, welcome back in. It is the halftime show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford will be back in here in just a little bit. Captain Dave producing on the other side of the glasses. Roll along here on your Wednesday. It is time for What is Trending at 2. And one of the bigger headlines in Gamecock sports of the week came down yesterday afternoon, or really / evening, when we learned Cam Scott was going to be coming back to South Carolina for his sophomore season. Of course, year one for Cam Ward did not live up to the expectations at all for what we expected out of him. Of course, when you have a four-star kid, especially a local kid that, again, was initially committed to Texas and was highly thought of coming out of high school and Lexington High and all that, when he flips to South Carolina, it was kind of looked at as, hey, this guy's the future of the program once CMB's gone and all that kind of stuff. And you just didn't see a lot out of him in year number one that gave you a lot of hope that was going to be the case going forward. And look, it's really funny to look back on now because I believe it was April 17th of 24 when he announced his flip right here about basically the spot I'm sitting in the studio with Bill on the early game. And then a calendar year later, April 1st, he is entering the transfer portal to not a lot of shock because I think we all maybe saw that coming like, hey, it didn't happen here. Maybe he's going to go find somewhere else to play or somewhere else that'll give him, the NIL money that he wants, to hopefully develop in a different way and find his way on the court a little bit more. And it begs the question of, okay, did he not have the prospects he thought he was going to have? Was he asking too much? Was it just these ongoing conversations with South Carolina where he eventually realizes, you know what, maybe this isn't the best option for me to go into the transfer portal? And whatever the reasoning was, he's back for another year. And we'll see, especially after having a full season in conference play and kind of understanding where he stands now, how can he get better? Can he develop? What can the coaching staff do better with him this time around so that hopefully he does live up to what we think he can be or be what we expect him to be coming out of high school? It's certainly going to be an interesting case to see. I think a lot of people are kind of indifferent towards this right now just because of the freshman year being quite underwhelming. And that doesn't mean he can't end up being a superstar when it's all said and done, but it's certainly going to be a wait and see approach. It is interesting that South Carolina's transfer portal additions have featured a guy that played here 2 seasons ago and Meechie Johnson returning, and then a guy in Cam Scott who you already had counted out that he's already in the portal, deciding to come back for another year. So we'll see. Spots in this team now that Cam Ward is back are filling up pretty quickly, I believe, because we're still waiting on Miles Studi and the medical red shirt and all that kind of stuff because he had to deal with the blood clots that made him miss a good majority of the season this year, basically half the season. We'll see if he gets approved for his waiver by the NCAA. And if so, I believe that only allows one more spot that you can fill via the transfer portal. And in that one spot, you would hope that South Carolina can go out there and get a point guard, like a true pass-first, distributor-type point guard, because they don't have that right now. Your options are Meechie Johnson, incredibly streaky shooter who can, have a hot game, have a cold game, have a hot game, have a cold game. You never know what you can get out of him. But he's more of a shoot-first type of guy that was good at playing the two the year they went to the NCAA tournament, now 2 seasons ago, that you just don't know if you can trust him to be that facilitator that we talk about so much that you had when Talon Cooper was here. And then you have a guy in Eli Ellis coming up out of high school that's also a shoot-heavy type of point guard himself. And again, you don't even know what his translation from high school to the college level is going to be. So you don't want to put all your eggs in the basket of just saying, well, he's going to be great. Let's work with him. So you hope that South Carolina can find that in the portal. There's no guarantee. Again, just because you go portal shopping for something doesn't mean you end up finding it, obviously. But that is an area that certainly needs to be addressed, if possible, in the transfer portal during this offseason. So Cam Scott's coming back. Again, we'll see if he can get better. We'll see if an offseason of extra work and development can get him to the point where he needs to be able to complete at this level. But, again, we'll have to believe it when we see it, I guess. Transferring over to baseball now. Gamecocks pick up the 5-3 win over Charleston Southern last night. Things got a little bit shaky there in the late innings. Gamecocks were up 5-0, and they did allow a couple runs across the plate late in the going with Crowther giving up a couple there in the top of the 8th, and then Sweeney surrendering one in the top of the 9th. Gamecocks able to hold on and pick up that 5-3 victory. They head into this weekend's contest against Florida with only 3 SEC series left to go and basically needing to be perfect, winning essentially 8 out of 9 to keep any hope of the postseason alive as far as your regular season resume is concerned. But they're going to be doing it will likely without one of their top stars going forward, and another one of their top stars significantly banged up going into this weekend as well. Dave, here's cut number 2, if you can. This is Coach Mainieri last night, giving the latest updates on both Ethan Petrie and Nathan Hall after last night's win over Charleston Southern.
Well, Ethan's situation is more, I don't know if serious is the right word, debilitating than Nathan's. He's got what they call a strain of the AC joint in his left shoulder. It was such a freak injury. You know, if you've watched the video of it, the ball took kind of a funny bounce, and he was kind of ready to play it, and when it took that funny bounce, he kind of accelerated to try to field the ball and rammed his left shoulder into the wall. But that injury, it's probably 2 to 4 weeks to heal. So there's a good chance that he's done for the year, but maybe he could get back for the last series or the SEC tournament. We'll have to see. In Nathan's case, remember when he hurt his heel at Texas A&M going after a home run ball? He whacked his heel. It's never really completely gone away, and I probably won't until he rests it completely. And this past weekend, Kentucky has an artificial turf field, and it's particularly hard. There's not a sand base to it. And I worried about his heel pounding on that hard ground all weekend. And about 2/3 of the way through the game on Sunday, I could start to see him limping when he'd run out the center field, for a new inning. So I wasn't really surprised on Monday when he couldn't run at all. And we practiced on Monday and he couldn't participate. So I didn't expect it to be any better or much better by today. So I almost put him in as a pinch hitter at one point, and just have him jog to first base, but the situation ended up not calling for it. So he's taking batting practice and everything. We just got to see how it feels over the next couple days, and hopefully a couple days rested, and it'll be feeling better for him by Friday. Hopefully he'll be able to play.
So you've already got an uphill battle trying to close out the season here. Again, being essentially perfect in your last 3 conference series or going on a miracle run out there in Hoover for the SEC tournament, which fortunately this year being the expanded conference, everybody does get in, so you don't have to worry about getting left out by being at the bottom of the conference. So still a chance, not a high one though. And when you look at the fact that your 2 best hitters are either out or banged up like Nathan Hall is, it doesn't instill a lot of hope and a lot of confidence. And you heard Mainieri there talking about Petrie first, saying could be 2 to 4 weeks, could be done for the year. We'll have to see. If I am Ethan Petrie, I'd be very shocked if we see him come back, right? Like at best, he's returning for the SEC tournament. And again, they got to go put on a 5-day display of perfection to even be able to advance in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if the risk is worth it. We're going to hear Petrie's name get called in the MLB draft coming up here in a couple months. So he does have a lot to lose if he further aggravates his injuries, if he did choose to come back. And it's unfortunate because, again, this guy's meant a lot to this program, was in pursuit of Justin Smoke's home run record, which he's obviously not going to likely get to as of now. And he's been your consistent best player for the past, the past 3 years. And as much as we'd all love to see him get back on the field, I just would err on it probably not happening. Nathan Hall, different story. Again, an ankle tweak that should possibly allow him to return this upcoming weekend against Florida. We will get Coach Mainieri's thoughts on that likely when he meets with the media, I believe tomorrow, ahead of the Florida series. But you also wonder if, okay, especially for a center fielder And for a guy that you rely on his speed and abilities to get around the base path, how much is that going to affect him? Because you can come back from an ankle injury and still be able to play, but you're not 100%. And Coach Mayer even said it. The best way to heal from something like that is just not work it, just to get off of it and rest it truly. So if he's coming back at 80%, then you're risking re-aggravating it this upcoming weekend where, hey, and game 1 or game 2 maybe re-aggravates him and then you lose him for longer. You know what I mean? Who knows? But it's just, it's not a great place to be right now for South Carolina baseball. And what we had optimism was going to be a strong season. I don't know if anybody said, yeah, they're definitely going to go to Omaha in year number 1, but at South Carolina making the tournament is the bare exception, right? And it's just not looking like that's in the cards for this team this year. And going to have a lot of tough conversations in the offseason about what needs to change, what needs to be better to ensure that 2026 can be a better baseball season for Coach Mainieri in year number 2. That's the headlines of what's trending at 2. Coming up next, we will get into the football conversation. Earlier on this morning, we're out at Firehouse Subs on Forest Drive, and we had J.D. Piquel of On 3 talking some South Carolina football, Lenore Sellers, and the SEC in general. Let's hear that conversation coming up next from earlier on this morning as the halftime show rolls along. Tyler Head, Captain Day producing on the other side of the glass, and then Terry Ford will be back here in just a little bit on your Wednesday here on The Game. Welcome back in. It's halftime show. Tyler Head, Captain Dave. I think Terry's going to be coming back at some point. He says he has these meetings and he just disappears for half an hour, and I don't know. We hope he comes back. I think I hear him. Should be back in here in just a second, but until he gets back in here, we'll get things rolling with the greatest day in the history of the world. You know, we always love going old school, kick things off. And Dave, I think we might be setting a record for the oldest event ever in the greatest day in the history of the world. You ready for this?
Oh, yeah.
1722. The game of billiards is mentioned in New England Current. So have we had anything older than 1722, Terry?
Well,
that might be a record.
We had Dave's high school graduation in 1721.
Just beat it.
But that really wasn't a sporting event. That was
It was not.
So this might be the
girls
oldest
thought
sporting
so.
event. What was that?
The girls thought it was a sporting event.
I bet they
How to get
did.
away from me.
All right, so billiards.
Billiards, 1722. It is acknowledged in the New England Current. So, I mean, the game had been around for a while, but I guess this is the first recognition of the sport, if that makes sense.
Man.
I'm looking it up here. It traces back as far as the 1340s.
They were playing pool in the 1340s?
A recognizable form of billiards was played outdoors in the 1340s. It was very reminiscent of croquet. So I don't think they were. I don't think they had cues and chalks and all that stuff. And there's no 8 balls, but
No Minnesota Fats or anything like that?
the no sharks at that time. What we would eventually come to know as billiards, pool, I think can find its foundation nearly 1,000 years ago.
It was kind of like croquet.
I guess so. And I don't know, maybe you had like a setup of the various pockets in like a rectangular shape. I don't know, but
Just figure somebody's yard look like a big pool table.
That is the King Louis VI of France had the first indoor billiard table. First known indoor billiard table.
Now, if you beat King Louis, did you get beheaded?
Excuse me, that was King Louis XI. My bad. I'm Roman numerals throw me off sometimes.
He beat me. Off was his head. He got the 8 ball.
Probably that was Henry.
Yeah.
That was Henry that was chopping off the wives' heads.
What was it? Louis? What was it? Louis the 14th? The one that who was the one that I forget now? The one that with Marie Antoinette with the French Revolution and everybody's getting beheaded and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't sat in a history class in a long time.
Here's the thing: there are so many kings. There's a Louis the First, the Fifth, the Seventh, the Henry the Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, 21st. Like I lose track at some point, right?
Didn't they have the let them eat cake thing then and all that other stuff?
I know King George was over England when America was founded. So I don't remember which King George that was.
And obviously that's because we all watched the watch Hamilton.
Yeah, that's true. And they named my home state in honor of him. Sounds better than Oglethorpe, but you doesn't roll off the tongue quite the same way.
Yeah, yeah.
But 1722, that's a record.
You ever play pool, billiards, and
all the time.
Were you into it?
Yeah, I had a mini pool table at my parents' house. My uncles and aunt and uncle got a nice one down in their basement. I don't know. It's just a game that everybody knows how to play. You don't have to be good at it, but it's a fun, casual game. You can drink, you can talk. You don't have to be talented to play pool.
I had the mini pool table as a kid, and I had to put it in my bedroom, and that's when I found out that my room was tilted.
Oh, okay.
Was the pool table tilted?
Sure.
Like one way? It just was. I sucked at pool. I was terrible.
I did break one of the sticks one time when I got a scratch. I was playing with some friends, and we weren't playing for anything. We were just having fun, and I hit a scratch or something like that, and I went, dang it, and I threw the pool stick down, cracked it in half.
Nice. See what your temper got you, Tyler Head? I was always
billiards are not the same thing.
What was that?
Pool and billiards are not the same thing.
Well, we know. Yeah. Billiards is a whole
They're
different
played on
deal.
the same
They're on the same thing now.
type of thing.
They just have different rules.
There's no pockets in billiards.
Is there not pockets in billiards?
There's pockets in.
What's the point of billiards then?
Is it like you hit the little things?
Stuff around.
Oh.
I don't know.
The origins are similar.
I just played pool. I never played billiards. I guess I just played pool. Where I grew up, nobody would have a fancy pool table.
Yeah, we're not from those high class areas.
Yeah, like
Dave.
you are, Dave. We're not from the fancy places.
You ever been to Covington, Georgia, Dave? Not exactly the most highfalutin place in the world.
Oh, Gold, we played billiards in my neighborhood. Nah. Dave educated us.
Okay.
Check this whole
Played
No,
on
no.
tables where you put the quarter in.
No pockets in billiards.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Smell.
Mm-hmm.
Now we know.
Yeah, we do.
But anyway,
All right, good deal.
1722.
All right, also, greatest day in the history of the world. On this day, 1958, Ted Williams, 10th Major League player to get 1,000 extra base hits. But, even more important, in old school, 1939, Lou Gehrig sets a Major League Baseball record by playing in his 2,130th consecutive game. It was his final game in a Yankee uniform. Of course, because of what we came to see as ALS, what became Lou Gehrig's disease. And, you really don't want to ever have a disease named after you.
No, that means you usually kind of set the standard there.
Mm-hmm. So Lou Gehrig, his final game as a Major League Baseball player this day in 1939. And here's the, if he didn't get sick, God knows what this record would have been.
Yeah, I mean,
they call him the Iron Horse for a reason.
Well, that's the thing is, like, would it have been anything that Cal Ripken could have eventually eclipsed? Who knows?
Because, I mean, Lou Gehrig was still, before he got sick, was still in the prime of his career. I mean, he was.
There were no rest days back then. You played as much as you possibly could. And again, outside of the sickness, he seemed to be pretty healthy.
So, yes, this day, Lou Gehrig playing his final Major League game in 1939. All right, also, greatest day in the history of the world, 1975, Larry O'Brien becomes the NBA's third commissioner. And, of course, you know the first two, right?
Not off the top of my head.
You don't remember J. Walter Kennedy?
I do not.
Maurice Podoloff?
Wait, was J. Walter Kennedy a part of the Kennedy family?
Probably. It was 1963 to 1975.
They had power all over the place.
Yeah, so they ran the NBA. Marilyn Monroe was involved. It was crazy. But, yeah, so Larry O'Brien the third. So that means, all right, let's stop for a minute. So O'Brien was third. David Stern, I believe, took over for O'Brien. So you've only had 5 NBA commissioners.
That's crazy. It doesn't, I mean, Silver's fairly young. He's going to be around for a while.
Mm-hmm. I agree. 1976, Muhammad Ali wins a unanimous 15-round decision over Jimmy Young to retain his world heavyweight title. Jimmy Young, I think, was undefeated at the time or had like one loss, but Muhammad Ali, that was an easy win, too. If me watching old highlights gets back in my head. 1985, NFL draft, Bruce Smith, taken number 1 overall by the Buffalo Bills, Virginia Tech defensive end, who obviously became a Hall of Fame pass rusher. So Bruce Smith taken on this day in 1985. Greatest day in the history of the world, 1993. We've been talking about, the goofball that was Tyler Halliburton's dad.
Yeah.
Tyrese Halliburton's dad coming out of the stands. 1993, one of the worst fan episodes in our sports lifetime happened. 1993, top-ranked Monica Seles. Monica Seles was dominating women's tennis. She had passed Steffi Graf as the best player in the world. Monica Seles was stabbed by a lunatic during a changeover in Hamburg, Germany. The guy reaches over a courtside railing and knifes Seles in the back. She had an inch-deep slit between her shoulder blades, missed the remainder of the 1993 season. So this is the end of April, so she missed months of tennis and came back, just not the same player.
Yep.
Mentally, she just wasn't the same. And she was the most dominant player in the world. Everybody was complaining that she grunted.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it was a really annoying, weird-sounding grunt. And everybody was upset. And I was always sitting back going, there are a lot of people who grunt, but you don't care about them because they're not kicking the crap out of you.
Because she's winning.
And she had passed Steffi Graf. Now, this guy, Gunter, was a huge fan of Steffi Graf. This tournament was in Germany. Where's Steffi Graf from? Germany. And so this guy decided, well, she ain't gonna beat Steffi Graf anymore. I'll put an end to that. And it just, again, it's a game, man. Come on. It's a game.
And unfortunately, these people that worship athletes feel like they're going to get some kind of benefit from doing this. Oh, well, Steffi Graf's going to, do whatever for me if I do this for her.
She bailed Gunter out of jail, right?
Yeah,
I'm sure. Because,
right.
Hey, Gunter, thanks for doing me a solid. So that's just it was just bad. Just really, and it ruined Monica Seles' career. It was a shame. All right, also the greatest day in the history of the world, 2010. Tiger Woods matches the worst 9-hole score of his PGA career, winds up with a 7 over 79 to miss the cut at Quail Hollow. At the PGA, Woods finishes 9 over 153. Sixth time in his 14-year career, I'm sorry, the Quail Hollow Championship. Only the sixth time in 14 years he had missed a cut. There you go. Greatest day in the history of the world. Firehouse Sub, text the hour next, and also we'll do our handoff with the post-game show next on The Game. All right, Firehouse Sub, text the hour. Then I'll do our handoff with our buddy Jay Phillips from sponsored by Little Pigs on Alpine. What do you got there, man?
In reference to John Halliburton and Giannis Antetokounmpo last night. Naim Sexter says, I know the Halliburton thing's bad, but there's nothing worse than club soccer moms for elementary school boys. They're like the Bridezilla TV show.
Bridezilla.
Listen, parents of youth sports might be the worst sports parents out there. When you see bad ones, they're bad.
Yeah, and you do. And look, I've been to my kids' games forever. You've been to your kids' stuff. And that parent, man, there was one once. My oldest was playing soccer, and he was like 10. And there was this guy running down the field coaching his kid. Oh. Like, the team already had a coach, but this guy's running up and down the field coaching his kid. And me and this other dad were standing there, and like rock, paper, scissors, who wants to trip him?
Right.
I mean, it's so, and a lot of the time the kid is so embarrassed because the parent is so over the top. It's actually embarrassing to the kid.
And it's funny because he's coming on today, but Eric Kimry coached one of my daughters in church youth basketball. Mm-hmm. And when they were like, I think second grade-ish, mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. Maybe 7 or 8 years old. And so we're at my church's gym, and I'm sitting next to that dad, okay? Now, he plays on the girl played on our team. Mm-hmm. They didn't go to our church, but they played on our team. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he's like yelling at her to do better. He's yelling at the official, and he's loud, right? And I'm sitting next to him. I was so, like, put off by it. I didn't want anybody to think, like, well, I'm condoning this. I stood up and went to the other side of the gym because I could not stand sitting next to, and I'm like, they're 7. They're 8.
Come on, man.
Like, she and you could tell he harbored dreams of her, being, we didn't know who Caitlin Clark was at the time, but I'd put it in that today. Like, she's going to be the first pick in the WNBA draft. And the ref, of course, is some high school junior making $10 an hour.
I was going to say, some poor schlub getting like, $15 to come out and referee
no,
a game.
Jay, he clearly hates your team and doesn't want to see that child succeed.
Yeah, that ref.
Yes.
That ref who.
But that was the most extreme. Where I think I did it in a way to almost be like demonstrative enough to let him know, like dude.
Come on,
I'm getting out of your aura.
Yeah,
as quick like you're doing it wrong.
It's so bad, and it's just like, don't suck the fun out of the game for the kid. Let the kid go out, especially at 7. How about this? It's like herding cats at 7.
Yeah.
And just like let them play and have fun and run around and be goofs or whatever. I remember my second oldest was playing soccer, and he was goalie, and he was maybe 9, 8, and goalieing can be pretty boring, right?
Sure.
Especially if nothing's coming down your way. So eventually he was really getting into this butterfly flying around the goal, and I look over, he's chasing the butterfly. There's nobody in the goal. I'm like, buddy, come on back. Come on back. But that's what they are at that age. And that's when these guys get so serious. Yeah. So I remember my youngest was maybe 8 or 9 playing like on a rec basketball team. He got a coach, and this guy's drawing up inbound plays. I'm like, why don't you teach him ball round, ball orange, ball goes in basket? Right. This guy's going, okay, here, we're going to run the hook.
Dribble, pass, shoot. That's all you need to know.
We're going to run the hook and ladder right here, okay, kids? This is what we're going to do here. I was just like, some of these people, just let kids play, especially at that age.
At that age, yeah.
Let them play and have fun.
Yeah. But this guy, it was, like I said, and he was screaming equally at his own child and the official.
And again, church league basketball.
Church league girls that are, again, 2nd or 3rd grade. I forget what season it was because she played for Eric's team for like 3 years.
But I bet you this guy
was. And I was just like, no, dude.
Guys like that, man. It's just like, wow.
Well, I remember a guy in Little League, a dad. You mentioned a dad sitting at the fence. This kid he played in 2 leagues at the same time, which I'm not even sure if that's like allowed. I guess in the 80s it was.
Yeah, nobody cared back then, right?
Yeah.
False identity.
And this guy was, he was same thing, always, yelling at his kid, yelling at the umpire, yelling at our coach. And I never did find out, but I think we would have found out if this kid had ever become a good baseball player. His dad thought he was, he's
like going to be next Willie Mays, right?
Yeah.
I tell you, my buddy coaches high school baseball. And he got one of those parents who kept bugging about his kid playing because there's no guarantee when you get to high school. Finally, my buddy said, sir, ma'am, I'm going to tell you why. He's not any good. Yeah. He's not any good. Okay? Next question. They just sat there looking at him going, are we done here?
Yeah, high school. At that point, you can't be going to the coach. This is not where it becomes equitable and it's recreational. I mean, that's when you start to learn to win.
He said he had never had in all of his years of coaching high school, never had parents like those two.
Yeah.
And finally, he just sat him down and said, "Okay, I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Be straight up.
Kid sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, next."
Yeah.
But yeah, some of these parents. Well, Tyler's got the one, but still, it's one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah.
But when the guy takes his own kid out of the game as a pitcher,
because
tell him this one.
He said his son had $1 million arm, and that was going to be his retirement plan. We were 11, and he took his own kid out of the game. Not a coach.
Onto the field,
ran onto the field and took his own kid out of the game. Well, that kid didn't even play in high school.
I was going to say, where is he now? At what, age 30?
That little Paul Skeens. What happened to little Paul Skeens?
Yeah. Well.
What do you got coming up?
Lou Bezjak talking about Cam Scott, Eric Kimry, and Councilman Peter Brown on Don Staley's ceremonies.
Nice. Tyler, Dave, good work. Jay and Elijah, next on the game.